Here's the problem is if you never accept yourself, you're always looking for that number one need to be fulfilled by somebody else. And the numbers are insane. It's like 70% of adults have not accepted themselves. They have problems with their self-esteem. So my chances of someone actually like fulfilling my number one need if I didn't do it is very slim.
Let's impact some men today. I think we're going to do a great job.
High-performing men often find themselves overwhelmed, isolated, and unsure of how to balance success with fulfillment. This podcast is the solution. Welcome to the Modern Man Podcast, where we connect men in pursuit of their potential. Join us as we embrace discomfort, cultivate community, and put wind in each other's sails. And before we jump into the episode, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and of course, share this with somebody else that you know can get value from it. To the men that are listening and watching, check out the Noble Knights Men's Community, where we are a community of like-minded men in pursuit of elevating our capacity for life. And I'm excited because we're going to get some wind in our sails today from my guest, who is the founder and CEO of Inner Armor Resilience Systems, a U.S. Marine Corps infantry combat veteran, former police officer, and federal agent. He has led high-stakes protective details for leaders like Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, Benjamin Netanyahu, and King Abdullah of Jordan. As a State Department contractor, he trained Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, and Special Forces in high-threat environments. It is a pleasure to have Andrew D. Wittman on the podcast. Mr. Wittman, thank you for being on, brother.
Ted, thanks for having me, man. And it's just Andrew. My dad was like Mr. Wittman. You know what I mean? I'm not old enough to be that, am I? I mean, come on.
I never understood that until I became a father myself. And when someone's like Mr. Phaeton, I'm like, oh, wait,
Yeah.
too formal for me. So,
Yeah,
Andrew,
man.
thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me, brother. I appreciate you, man.
No, absolutely. I know we're going to have a great conversation. I first always want to make sure that the audience, the guests, they get acquainted. And of course, you walk into a room, nobody knows who you are, what you do. And I'm sure you need no introduction after that introduction, but how do you introduce yourself?
I mean, I just walk out and be like, hey, I'm Andrew. It's just Andrew. And I'm a man of excellence who always keeps his word. And if you know that about me, you know everything there is to know.
Oh, man, I love that. So forget my notes for a second. I want to start right there. A man who always keeps his word. How does that manifest? How'd you cultivate that?
Yeah, that's my internal identity statement, right? So this is the operating system that I run by. Like, who do I want to be? I decided who, I pre-decided and engineered who, because if you don't decide who you are, the world will decide for you who you are, right? Or your job will decide, or the neighbors, or who, right? Or the social media audience, or whatever. I'm not, so I pre-decide who I'm going to be. I engineered this identity statement, which is the core of Inner Armor, right? That everybody should have this identity. It's a single statement that I'm a man of excellence, always keeps his word. Because I used to be a perfectionist, but I realized I was only setting myself up for failure. So I switched it to excellence. I'm always giving my best effort. So if I give my best effort, everything that I do, no half-stepping, I can't phone it in. When I do that, I can go to sleep at night. I can look in the mirror in the morning. Yes, I'm going to get better. Yes, I'm going to course correct. Yes, I'm going to get training. But if I gave my best effort, even if I failed, I gave my best effort, right? And I'll work on getting better, right? So that's the first one. The second half is I aspire to always keep my word, which the first person you got to keep your word to is who, Ted?
Yourself,
right? So like that's, I mean, you can't be lying to yourself or telling yourself I'm going to start that diet on Monday, or Tuesday or after the holidays, or I'm going to get to that, I'm going to finish that graduate degree sometime, or I'm going to get that professional training, or I'm going to do my, whatever it is, X, Y, Z here, I'll do it another day. You got to, buckle down and tell yourself, keep your word to yourself. And then also gives you permission to say no, because I'm going to only give my word to people that I'm going to keep it to, right? So here's an example, dude, right? I don't know, this is like, 10 years ago, maybe. I was like on the podium. I did like 200 audiences that year. It was 2015. I was still a young man and just going crazy. I would get home to like Saturday and leave on Sunday night. You know what I mean? It's like insane. But I got down and I'm sitting down and it's Saturday morning. I got my bunny slippers on. I just got my coffee and I'm turning on. I was like, game day. Right. And I'm just sipping and the doorbell rings. I don't even move out of blink. I'm like, I'm not answering any of that. I don't answer. I'm watching game day, baby. So I hear the kids coming down the stairs, thinking it might be like one of the neighbor kids. It's the guy next door. He's like Eeyore from Pooh, Hey, hey, Andrew. I'm like, hey, dude. He's like, hey, is your dad there? And they're like, Dad, it's Mr. So and so. I'm like, oh man. So I come over and like, hey, man, how's it going? He's like, we're moving. I'm like, oh, is that good or bad for you? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. He's like,
Yeah.
no, it was good. We're selling the house, but um, my two adult sons and their wives were coming to help us move, but they can't make it. So I wanted to know if you could help us load the truck. I'm like, I got like 24 hours on the
Woo.
ground. I'm like, no. Right. I'm a man of my word.
Yeah.
That gives
Yeah.
me permission to say, no, I'm going to go watch game day, man. I could call you two men in a truck. I could Google that up, college
I
hunks.
got you with that.
Right. Hey, man, you can go with that. But no. Right. So I'm like, if your adult kids aren't going to help you, I'm definitely not. You know what I mean? So, but it gave me permission freed up to say that. So then he went to around all the neighbors in the court, and like one of the neighbors, they're feeling guilty, right? They don't have an identity statement that says they always keep their word. So they don't have permission to say no. So they're like, yeah, we'll try to help you out. So they kind of get roped into it, and they're over. Then it's a miserable day. And then they're, or the other neighbor said they'll try, and then they don't show up, which of course trying is lying. So that's what this is pre-decides everything I do. So when I walk into a room and I'm a man of excellence, always keeps his word. Yeah, man, that's who you're dealing with, right? I mean, it was just great if I said to the kids, you're going to Disney, because they loved it because we're going to Disney. But if I said 3 weeks and no Xbox, that meant 3 weeks, no Xbox. There's no reprieve. But when I give you my word, that's what it is. So that's, that's me in a nutshell, man. It's intense inside my inner circle. It's like Icarus, right? Your wings could get burned off.
Yeah.
Inside the inner circle, it's intense, which is my greatest strength, but it's also my greatest weakness. But that's what you need to know about me. It's gonna be like that. I'm gonna be straight up, transparent, and I'll tell you no if it's no.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. What was the process in finding that acceptance? Because I feel like a lot of guys get caught in people pleasing, right? You
Oh,
say that scenario, and some guys are like, "Oh man, I gotta help them," or "I can't
yeah.
even
Not
stand
yeah.
that." But to have not only that statement, but the comfort with who you are, how's that process?
Yeah, I think a lot of that happened for me in 6 years in the Marine Corps infantry, right? Because
Hmm.
look, our job in the Marine Corps infantry is to, break stuff and blow it up and roll in the mud. And nobody likes a warrior until the enemy's at the gate. So you just got to be comfortable with it. And then I went into law enforcement. It's the same thing. Nobody wants a cop around till and I need a cop. And then where were you? How come you weren't here? It ain't like being a firefighter. Everyone loves a firefighter, no matter what. They're not making little topless calendars of cops. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
So I think that kind of had part, it doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks of you, right? Is your identity has to be, and that's a huge thing, is that the science behind that is that the number one fear of all social animals, that's humans, like dogs, the wolf pack, mammals of like whales and dolphins, rejection is the number one fear, and the number one need is acceptance into the pack or into the family, into the clan, right? We know. So if you accept yourself, here's the problem: is if you never accept yourself, you're always looking for that number one need to be fulfilled by somebody else. And the numbers are insane. It's like 70% of adults have not accepted themselves. They have problems with their self-esteem. They don't have so that means I'm looking to get love from somebody that can't love themselves. 70% of them don't. So my chances of someone actually like fulfilling my number one need, if I didn't do it, is very slim.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. Which is why we have to take ownership of this. And honestly, there's gonna be some pain along the way. There's gonna be some
Yeah.
trials and tribulations, some adversity. And I do want to talk about that
Mhm.
resilience piece, something that you train on a lot. And just pulling in research that shows resilience is not purely innate, but can be developed through intentional practice and habit formation. In fact, a 2020 study in Frontiers in Psychology found that resilience training intervention significantly improved stress management and psychological well-being in both military and corporate populations. So speaking on your work and how you help folks with resilience and training that, if we're talking to, let's say, a young man who's listening to this fresh out of college, he just gets into the real world and realizes, oh snap, I'm going to need a bigger boat, right? Like that
Right.
happens. Like you think college
Yeah.
prepares you for life? No, not really.
No.
But as they have this realization, they understand that they need resilience. How do they cultivate that, Andrew?
So that's a great question, Tim, because and even on top of that study that you just put, there's more and more what I call hard data, neuroscience. It's medical data of how does the brain fire off, and we're learning about how the brain fires off. Is that every time that you do something in that resilience category, it makes it stronger like a muscle. So that's why I teach resilience as a physical skill, like working out. So every time you deal with stress, it's like hitting the bench press or doing squats or doing pull-ups. As you're
Hmm.
going to the gym, you're training it. Stress. You look at stress as the training. It's my trainer, and I'm doing weights so I could push more and more. Now, listen, when I don't know if you work out, but you look like you do. But when I first started bench pressing, right, you're sore for like 3 days. You can't even wash your hair because you can't lift your head. You're like nodding your head to like move your hand around the right. So like but and you push like maybe one plate, right? There was that one guy, the political guy that one plate fell off. I'm like, I remember that. I was like that guy, you know. But as you go, and then you start working your way up, and then you get to, of course, I'm like, for me, it was like 300 pounds was where we want to press 300. I don't do it anymore, but that's what we did, when you're running with the spec ops guys. That's like a,
Yeah.
oh, if you can't do that, then you're, like that's the minimum cutoff, right? So, but you work up to it, it still hurts every time. You know what I mean? It never hurts any less than the first day in the gym. It never hurts any less. You're just moving more weight. And that's what resilience is. There's no less effort. It's not going to be, it's just like going on a long run. Every run, it still hurts. I mean, every run, you're still out of breath. You just go further and faster. And so that's the same way as I train this mental resilience. And again, I took, the book is called Inner Armor Perpetual Resilience because I don't like bouncing back. That's too reactive for me. I want it to be proactive and I want it there all the time. Just like
Hmm.
training at the gym. I don't lose my muscle. I'm training every day. So I'm combat fit, not just like, I'm not magazine pretty fit, but I can handle whatever life throws at me. I want to do that same approach mentally and emotionally. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. It's the same reason why I started martial arts and Muay Thai when I had
Right.
my daughter. And I looked at my wife. I said, "Listen," and I've done training with Green Berets. I have to do more. I've done like the pistol combat training, and
Yeah.
my wife's like, when I took a knee to the face and came home from Muay
Yeah.
Thai, she looked at me. She said, "Why are you doing this?"
Right.
and I told her, I said, "Well, babe, I'd rather get kneed in the face by my coach at practice where
Right.
he'll check on me than getting
Yes.
kneed in the face in an alley
100%.
with
Right.
you and our daughter's life on the line."
Oh, that's so good, man. That's 100% because that's
Yeah.
controlled combat, and this is another principle in the book that of my entire system. You never rise to the occasion. You always fall back to your level of training.
Hmm.
Right? So you're never going to be like, oh, I got mugged now. You're going to rise to the no. You're going to do what you've always done, and it's the same thing like in traffic. Here's another example. It's not just like martial arts or fighting, but in traffic, if someone cuts you off in traffic and you always have, blood mother, I called Home Alone cussing Joe Pesci for the kids, sassing, frassing, blessed, blank. If that's what you do, your brain you're making that neurological superhighway a loop, a neurological loop. And the brain is super efficient, man. It gets faster and faster. So pretty soon that's your response. It's your trained response. You've rehearsed that response. You can't do anything other than that. It's like the
Hmm.
Pavlov's dog thing. When the bell rings, you salivate, right? When someone cuts me off in traffic, I'm just, yeah, but that's right. And however your stress response, that's why we pre-decide and train, rehearse what our actual responses want to be. I call it being a first responder, like a cop or a firefighter, EMS, instead of an emotional reactor where I'm just, Joe Pesci Home Alone cussing. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Yeah.
No, that lines out. That tracks really, really well. And I think
Mhm.
a lot of guys listening to this might think to themselves, man, I don't have hours in the day to
Nope.
train my body and this, the other thing. But when it comes to resilience, doesn't take too long. How can
Every
how can we train our
yeah.
resilience for like 2 minutes a day?
And you should be doing it every 2 minutes. Do you brush your teeth? Let me ask. Everybody here should be brushing their teeth at least in the morning is 2 minutes, but at night another 2 minutes. That's 4 minutes right there. What are you doing while you're brushing your teeth? Are you listening to the traffic report? Are you just like zoning out? I mean, I do my identity statement loop. I'm a man of excellence who always keeps his word. I'm a man of excellence who always keeps his word. Andrew's a man of excellence who always keeps his word. Like so that if I hit my hand with a hammer, what comes out again is not Home Alone cussing, but I'm a man of excellence who always keeps his word. Like I don't care if it's whatever's in there most is going to leak out. So I'm going to keep running these loops for those 2 minutes. And every time that you do it, listen, every time. If you pick carrots over Twinkies, you just did a rep for resilience.
Mm,
When you get up before the alarm clock, this is another thing. I've trained myself. I get up 1 minute, 2 minutes before the alarm clock, and I turn the alarm off before I ever hear it. If I sleep through it, I call it a failure. So I'm going to have to go back. But if you can't do that, then train yourself to at least get up on the first one and not keep hitting the snooze button. Every time you don't hit the snooze button and you get out of bed, you're training resilience. every time that, like, what are you doing in the shower? Like, I talk to my body. I tell it what I want it to do. I talk to my body fat composition. I talk to my eyesight. I talk to my, the hearing range, my decibels in hearing. I talk to my complexion. I want my skin to look good. Like, what are you doing in that time? Just like zoning out? Like, that's what I'm saying. You have all the time in the world and you're already doing it. You're just pointing these things in the wrong direction. I'm just trying to take your thought processes and make these new neurological loops that help you instead of hurt you.
Yeah, I hear living life with intention, right? So many of us are drifting and we're just kind of
Mm,
floating away from one task to the next. And we get into this autopilot because it's comfortable. It's easy to not think about it. And our brain is wired like that. It just wants to, I know what to do, stick to what's comfortable. But when we have that intentionality, that's when we can start to rewire, reshape, and actually lean into some of that resilience. And a lot of folks wait until they hear this podcast or they hear a Les Brown and they get fired up
right,
and they're good for a day or two and then it fizzles out. But that
right,
motivation is always fleeting. So what do you mean when you say the tactical emotional armor, right? Switching
right.
from motivation to tactical emotional armor. What
Yeah,
does
I'm going
that
to
look like?
rewire the brain. I'm rewiring my responses. I'm going to rewire. So what you just said, autopilot. This is we know this. So
Yeah.
here, just give me the neuroscience numbers. I'm not geeking out on it, but it's very important. We take in 11 million bits of information every second through what we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we touch, what we taste. 11 million bits. We're sucking up information at broadband speeds, but only 126 bits goes to our conscious mind for action. So we're literally
Mhm.
discarding 99.9% of the information we take in, and we're only taking action on the 0.001%. How do we pick that 1%? Is like, how do I pick that 0.001%? How do I pick those 126? Well, neuroscience has told us that it's the what we think, what we feel, what our attitudes, what our opinions are, what our experience is, and how we perceive things. What's our worldview? So if I could change, this is the difference between strategy and tactics. Tactics are the thoughts that I'm thinking in the moment or that motivation and it wears off. That's tactical. Motivation is tactical. What I'm talking about is a strategic rewiring of your entire operating system. I'm going to rewire your brain so that my default mode is to think that I'm a man of excellence who always keeps his word. My default mode is I'm going to respond like a 911 operator. What's the emergency? Because what we know in neuroscience is that the brain registers urgency as an emergency. And usually like 98% of the time, it's neither urgent nor an emergency. So I'm going to 911 operator this thing. And that's okay, what's the emergency? Like that should be your like, and I tell you, this is a good way to do it. Because when I started doing this stuff and kind of putting these, one-liners together, I would watch a movie and see how that I would take a line out of a movie and go, that works. I'm going to use that. So there was one in Ocean's 12. I don't know if you saw that, but where Brad Pitt's coming out of the hotel room and Andy Kaufman's on the phone. He's like, I'm going to bed. And then his favorite car blows up in the parking lot. And what is his response is, huh? And then he just walks off. Like, I'm going to Brad Pitt. A lot of stuff doesn't need your response. A lot, you can blow my car up. I'm going to Brad Pitt that thing and go, huh? Like, that's a rehearsed response. And that's what I'll do in the middle of some crazy stuff. I'm going, huh? You know what I mean? Like, so that's a good way for your guys to like, I'm not just looking at a movie to look at our TV I'm like, I'm getting line. Like my cousin Vinny has a ton of lines. I'm, it's like, shout it out when I'm like, any of
Yeah.
those lines, they're rehearsed lines. But if you don't have any, you could borrow them from the ones that you saw. And then how did it make you feel when that line was given? That's how it's going to make the audience feel. That's where you want to drive your resilience. This is like, I'm giving you the inside, I'm pulling the curtain back and showing you all my secrets, man.
If iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. But if you're a man and you're alone or listening to this, then who sharpens you? What's going on, guys? Ted Phaeton here, host of the Modern Man podcast, also founder of the Noble Knights Mastermind Group. And I'm just out here encouraging you to find your circle. Maybe you're on a personal growth journey and nobody around you understands the new mentality that you're possessing. That's okay. You can find an online community that will pour into you, will navigate your goals and navigate your obstacles, share their experiences, resources, and more. Join the Noble Knights Mastermind Group and try us out for free to tap into a community of men helping each other scale up and reach their goals.
Check out themodernmanpodcast.com.
Yeah, no, I love it, which is I'm so thankful for the time and for the expertise because yes, we can identify these clips and these I would say these fictional depictions of life, right?
Yeah.
Ocean's 11 and whatnot. But these have been tested. You have led in combat zones and in the boardroom. So these are um, tested tactics. How has
And
these
science
approaches?
backed. They're all backed by science too. I don't tell you anything
Yeah.
that I can't back up with science. So that's the other thing. They have been tested, but they're also science backed. But yeah. So what was your question? Sorry, I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, that's perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
science backed, but also the practical implication of these, whether it be in the combat zones
Yeah.
or in the boardrooms. How have these practices led to success in chaos and stressful situations?
Right. So it's all across the board. Like you said, it doesn't. And physiologically, every human acts the same way under combat is they're stressed out. It's the same way you act in traffic, or the kid you're late picking up the kids at car line at school. You forgot them at little league practice. Oh my god! Or what I mean. There's just craziness in the street. There's protesters, and the stress, the physiological stress is the physiological stress. So the human machine operates as the human machine. That's why it works everywhere. If there's a human involved, this stuff is helpful because all I did was study how does the body, mind, and emotions work together. So, or usually the body, mind, and emotions work against each other. So that's why I always ask you, I'm going to hire you as to be the CEO of You Incorporated, and your board of directors, your job is to get your board of directors to act together. Your board of directors is your body, mind, and emotions. When you have a boardroom meeting, who usually wins the vote, Ted? Body, mind, or emotions?
Emotions.
Right, but who should be winning the vote? The mind, right. So then now all we have to do is figure out, okay, so the body is the swing vote, because the mind and the emotions, they never vote together. They're diametrically opposed, right? So the swing vote's the body. So that's why when I call it mental toughness, we're calling it resilience now because it's like a softer word. Mental toughness got too much, they think that's doing one more rep. That's physical toughness. Physical toughness is like a good entrance, because if you can dominate your body and you can get your body to side with your mind, and you could do things you don't feel like doing physically. Now I have 2 votes in the boardroom. The mind can actually take over the boardroom once I train my mind to think critically. But a lot of people, the last time we dominated our body was when we got potty trained, right? So I only do what I feel like doing or not doing, as long as I'm not making a mess. All right. So that's why it works everywhere. It'll work in parenting. It works in my kids, they're all adults now, but they grew up they're kind of my guinea pigs, right? I was always, doing, working in the lab, whatever. I created
Science backed.
Yeah, it is. And then the parenting book, I lay out all the science and everything that I did with them, and they're all super successful. And not only that, they're great people. I always joke that I built my best friends. I cloned my best friends in a lab, right? Because I created them in a lab because they're such good people on every level. But that's why it works. If you understand, this is the human machine. My obsession was, how do I reach my genetic potential? That was my obsession, to find any of this stuff. And it's not just my physical potential, my mental potential, and my emotional potential, but also I call it life on all cylinders. My financial potential. What's my social potential? Like harmonious relationships. What's my professional potential? What's my cultural potential? How could I affect the culture? What's my spiritual potential? Right? How could I be like who I am, the CEO of me, that part of me that's the real me? What's my potential? Right? And so I started just tracking this stuff out, and really it's great for everybody to get a hold of this, Ted, but it works for me and my kids. So I don't want to say this in a mean way, but if you don't get it, or anybody doesn't get it, it doesn't affect me any. You know what I mean? Like, I know it works, and I'm not trying to convince you. I'll say it like that. I'm not trying to convince you it works. I want you to do good, but I really doesn't matter to me if you do good or not. I know that's kind of weird, but hey, man, I'm not trying to convince you whether the earth is round or flat. You can believe whatever you want to believe. I'm just telling you, I believe this, and I've practiced this, and I have I'm a long track record. It's like I'm going into 40 years of track record on this from the time I started it till now, right? So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. But I don't say anything. I vetted all this stuff and I tested. A lot of things didn't work. Like I would test like even physical stuff. Like, remember like when like cold therapy was like huge. You got these freezy vests. I bought this freezy vest. I put it in the freezer, and it was like body armor but frozen. And I would like shiver. I would get so cold. I'm giving myself frostbite. And I'm going to do it for 60 days. It didn't move the needle at all for me, except the pain. The pain was off the charts. So I'm like, I threw that one out, right? It didn't work for me. So I'm not telling you, but I know there's science that says it works, but everything doesn't. It's all individual. You have to figure out what works for you, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And when we figure that out, we lean into it because we have the other side where the situation happens and we're not prepared for it. And we are forced to fall to the level of our training, fall to the level of our preparation, which if it's not there, unfortunately the results could be catastrophic. So what are some of the biggest mistakes you've seen leaders make when it comes to chaos, when it comes to life meeting them in that moment? What are some mistakes you've seen, identified, or
Yeah.
experienced?
So the first thing is you can never hide weak leadership in a crisis. Everyone, when it hits the fan, I'm telling you, it doesn't matter what your title is or what your pay grade is. It could be the lowest paid volunteer intern. If they're controlling themselves, everyone will look to the person that's in control of themselves when chaos hits. So that's the biggest mistake, is that we've never figured out how to control ourselves. And I see this with, like, man, this is, we're getting in deep, but I work with less CEOs and guys that are my age or even older, right? We're in our 50s and 60s. And because they've had a level of success in one of their cylinders, or maybe two of the eight, they think that they've made it. But the other six, it's a freaking dumpster fire, right? So you're going through three marriages, your kids hate you, whatever, right? You're an emotional train wreck. Because you did good professionally or financially, you think you've arrived. So those are the mistakes, is not being balanced. The greatest compliment my kids have ever gotten, or I would say as a parent, I received a compliment. My kids, they say, your kids are so balanced, right?
Mm,
It was the greatest compliment. Not that they're great in sports, but they suck with, like, they treat girls bad, or the girl is great in sports, but she can't hold a job, or I mean, like, because the balance is off. So I've trained this balance. A lot of leaders, they might be good in one thing or maybe two, but they're just ignoring the other ones. And when the pressure hits, because here's the thing with pressure, Ted. Pressure ain't bad. Pressure just exposes where you haven't trained. It just exposes your weakness. A diagnostic tool that shows me, hey, I need to shore this up over here. Because you took the knee to the face, you know what that feels like. It's not, I mean, when that happens again, you're not going to be out of the fight. You'd be like, I've done this before. I've gotten up. It doesn't, are you following that?
yeah, no, absolutely. And that's where pressure will expose what's within. And that's where you meet yourself. That's where you meet the work that you've done. Now, I don't plan on taking a knee to the face anymore. But what I did learn by taking a knee to the face was I can't duck like like Ben Whitaker, the boxer.
Right.
Especially in Muay Thai, you got to watch out for the knees. This isn't boxing. This is Muay Thai. This is
Right.
a different sport, different tactic. You have to look out for different threats. So that builds situational
Mm.
awareness. Now, sometimes that immediate feedback doesn't have to be as forceful as a knee, but it's also a lesson that keeps showing up until it gets learned. And I'm glad I learned it the first time. I don't plan on learning it again.
Yeah, that's good. It's what we call a self-correcting error in my line of work, a self-correcting error. Yeah. No, that's good, man. But you said something there that's, like, really huge, is like, and this is where a lot of people are not doing the right thing. They're playing one sport or one set of rules, but life is happening to them in another set of rules. So they're, like, kind of being like, they're on the ice hockey arena with golf clubs, and then can't figure out why it's not working, and then get frustrated,
Hmm.
and then it's a downward spiral of, you suck and you can't make it, and all these inner, the dialogue that goes down the track, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, just like the upward spiral dialogue becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But that's another thing you got to figure out. What are the rules here? What are the rules I'm playing? Like, here's an example, right? So I did all my cylinders, and it took me like 4 or 5 years for each cylinder. I like maybe six, and I started, and when I started doing them, my final cylinder really was the financial one. I left it for last. And I'm not talking about making money. I'm talking about understanding the rules of finance. And I went out and I
Hmm.
hired two coaches. It cost me like 50 grand. That I paid to be in these guys' circles. Cause that's another thing. That's another rule that I learned. It's a shortcut, man. If I could pay somebody, like, people don't think anything about dropping, $150,000 for a college education, which is not really that great. I'll spend $150,000 for somebody that's like a world-class expert in this, is let me be in their space and teach me what they know. It's a great, you know, um, shortcut, if you will, or it's an efficient use of time and money. So I learned how the financial. I'm not talking about investing. I want to know, how does the financial system work, and so I spent, how do credit scores work? I spent money. How do I, what's the algorithm? How do the bank, the arbitrage rates? So when they're holding my money, what's the bank doing with it at night? How can I adopt that to help me out? Once I figured that out,
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, I was like, all of a sudden I had money coming out of my ears. I'm like, what's going on? I haven't invested it. All I did is like start using the rules to my advantage instead of being in the wash. So
Yeah.
that 50 grand that I spent, it's already produced. I, I get it more than 5 million in return. And I didn't really get onto that till like 2018 or 2019. And I'm telling you, it's more than 5 million. It's closer to 10 million in returns. Whether the swing, whether it saved me money or it earned me money. But so what are we
Yeah.
doing, right? So that's the thing is what where look at where you need to do your training. Like this just never stops. You just never get your foot off the gas.
Yeah. I went to a leadership conference not too long ago, and one of the takeaways they said was, you know, they say, ignorance is bliss, and what you don't know can't hurt you, but what you don't know can keep you broke. And that's true because the people who are really trying to elevate themselves, they will pay for the knowledge of what's keeping them where they're at. And you could replace broke with it's still stuck where you're at. And that's
Mhm.
where you invest in that growth. You mentioned the cylinders, that last one being financial. What
Yeah.
are the other cylinders that you've
So
identified?
the first one is spiritual. Like that's my identity. Like, I'm a man of excellence. That's who am I when everything else is stripped away. I'm spiritually healthy because I know who I am, what characteristics define me. It's not an external label. I see this. I'm a cop. Well, when the badge and gun go away, then what happens? Well, you die, right? I'm a football coach. Haven't we seen that? I love watching Nick Saban because he went through this process before he retired. He was already showing up at ESPN on games that he wasn't coaching, right? He was already looking to the next. He knew that he would, because coaches die if your identity is a coach. He's not, his identity wasn't a coach. His identity is, whatever his statement is, but it's always moving forward. It's always advancing. It's always trying to get the most out of what, his genetic potential. So that's the spiritual cylinder. Then there's the physical, my nutrition, my sleep, my exercise. Then there's the mental cylinder, my critical thinking. How do I think my thoughts? Emotional cylinder, emotional sovereignty, where I have dominion over my emotions. They don't have dominion over me. Then I have my social cylinder, harmonious relationships with my family, with my coworkers, with my neighbors, right? And then after those, then it becomes professional. Like, what are you doing professionally in your career? Like, here's one of the things that I did, and I kind of teach or train all my clients to do this. I read an hour a night inside my profession. The latest articles, textbooks, whatever, in neuroscience and biopsychology. And I'm reading an hour a night of source material, not mind candy. And within 5 years, where do you think you'll be? Well, you're rocketing past even the academics, because here's what, even my PhD, this is what I found out. They're camped out on what they already did, man.
Yeah.
Your PhD don't mean jack diddly, bro, that's great for 15 years ago. You don't know what's going on now. Anyway, that's why I want to go. My daughter's in a college. It's called Florida Tech. She's like, everybody has to be in research. All the professors there have to be doing research. You can't teach unless you're actually doing new stuff. Well, there's a lot of
Yeah.
schools that ain't like that. So and then the final one is, financial. I said that. And then the last one is cultural. And cultural, I saved it for last, but it really was a lot sooner, because when you look at it, it's how are you affecting the culture around you? Not just like we say culture, but think about this. The plumbers have a different culture than the electricians. The bankers have a different culture than, the roofers, right? And wherever you are, what are you affecting in your culture? If you're in the roofing industry, are you affecting that culture? Are you in the banking industry? Are you affecting that culture? If you're the school that your kids go to and you're in the PTA or you're in the boosters club, there's a culture that goes with that. Are you affecting that culture? My daughter played lacrosse. There's a lacrosse culture. We call them, there's the lacrosse moms or the soccer moms or the way. Are you affecting that culture? Are you following that? So I want to make sure that I'm leaving my mark on the culture, like shaping the culture and shifting it, if you will, creating it in an image that has resilience to it, and an image that's just like me. It is a balance, and an image that it's about integrity. It's an image that's about honor, not like just letting it drift. So that's
Yeah.
the
No.
cylinders, man, and it takes a while to work. Like I said, 6 years probably on each one.
Absolutely. And for guys that are listening, don't just think you could listen to the last minute and a half and be like, okay, I got it. There's a lot of depth in each of those silos that you have to go through. When it comes to culture, I think of the large grandfather clock. I don't know if you've heard about this. Have you heard about the grandfather
No,
clock
tell me about it,
scenario?
man. Yeah, don't tell
So
me
if
about it.
you have a shop of grandfather clocks, the largest clock, the swing of the ticking in the talk, all the other clocks will match that cadence because of the influence of the
Ah.
grandfather clock. So when you mention influencing culture, and I'm
Mm.
sure you're going to go off and research this, make sure you verify this source. All
Yeah.
right.
No, I love
Yeah.
it though. Yeah.
But that's what I imagine when you walk into a room, when you enter a culture. Are you that big grandfather clock that impacts the cadence of the flow
Right.
and the energy around you? You said something before I kind of wanted to unpack a little bit more. You said source
Hmm.
material, not mind candy. What's the difference, and how do you differentiate between the two?
Yeah, source material is I'm going to get to the bottom of like I don't take somebody's word for it, man.
Yeah.
Don't you're not going to get it on social media. So here's one of the great things that I love about AI. People are afraid of AI because it's like, oh, it makes you, yes, there's studies that say it makes you dumber, but there's also buried deep in that study that somebody who's cognitively engaged, it connects 4 times the amount of neurons because you like look so Grok, ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever one you want, put in whatever your question is. It'll answer the question. Don't just read that. Go to the links that it used. I want to get the source material. Like who are you citing that we got that? Because you're going to find out that a lot of times that thing is wrong, right? And then or it'll be like, okay, that gives me an idea. I'm going to search that up, and then I'll read whatever studies on that little piece. So I'm just keep digging. I keep going down level after level after level, right? I'm going to microscope this thing till I get to the bottom, and then I can build it back up because I want to know what the cellular. I want to go to the cellular level, and not just the headlines. I don't want just a minute and a half. And it takes work, but here's the thing: I'm also building my resilience. When I'm reading a textbook or I'm reading a medical study offline, or there's a psychological study, or you go to any of the NIH sites. There's study.org. All these studies come up when you're looking at this stuff. It could be on sleep, it could be on nutrition, it doesn't matter what it is. And there's one that you talked about with the grandfather clock. Immediately, because I've done the research, I even talked about this in my parenting book. There's a thing called it's like a mind meld where you neurologically link up, and there's a leader and there's a drone in every conversation. Like right now, if we were hooked up to an fMRI machine, our brains would be firing off in the same patterns. And your listeners, doesn't matter the time difference or the distance, they're listening to this quote, quote, programming. That's what it is. Their brains are firing off too. Right now, I'm in the lead position because I'm talking. So everybody's brains are firing off in my pattern. If we're neural coupled up, like that's why in a parent and as a leader, I always want to be in the leadership position of where we're sending in cultural. I want to be sending how are we all thinking? You should be hooked up to my brain because I'll be the leader. You guys drone me because I'm thinking my thoughts and I'm better at it than you are, right? Because I've taken now, if someone's better at it, I'll cook up with them, but I'm not going to, abdicate that power to just anybody. Right. So that's the source material. I'm going to dig deep and dig deep. I'm going to find out for myself. I want firsthand information. That doesn't mean I have to do the study, but I'm going to read the study, not the headlines, not the Business Insider. Whatever. It was great that they did the article. What that did is it sparked a thought in me. And then they're quoting a study. I'm going to go read that study.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic and very, very helpful for the guys that are listening to go 1, 2, 3, 4 steps deeper
Yeah.
than just what the ChatGPT summary gives you. You don't want to take that for its face value.
No.
You want to extrapolate and detail more because AI can be wrong, as we have learned. For someone who's listening to this who might be feeling burnt out, they're doing some resilient practice. They're doing cold plunges. They're working out. They're feeling a little burnt out. What are some of the first steps you would tell them to take to regain that resilience and find their baseline again?
The first thing is just take a step back. I would just say, just stop everything just give yourself 24, 48 hours. Like stop the working out, stop the cold plunging, even 72 hours. I'm going to come back and I'm going to do like a retreat. And it's a mental and emotional retreat, a physical retreat. I'm just going to come back, to stop everything and take an honest assessment, an audit of all 8 of my cylinders in every area of life. And I'm going to look at each cylinder, spiritual, mental, physical, right? And I'm going to 1 to 10 rank them, no 7s because that's cheating, right? Where am I at in this? Where do I feel like I'm at? And look at your right. Where am I? And then look, okay, then I'm going to start from the bottom and then start again. Here's where I am. And here's where I want it. Then the next thing is where do I want these cylinders to be? Because maybe you don't want, your financial cylinders. Somebody like, I don't care about the money. Okay, man. Well, like, I don't judge you, but don't ask me for, lunch. Right. So, I don't want to be fit. Yeah, right. I'm like, I don't want to be fit and work out. Okay, man, I don't judge you, but I'm not paying your medical bills for you. I'm not going to, don't. So are you following that? Like there's no judgment in resilience or mental toughness, inner armor. There's no moral judgment. I'm just looking at results. So that's what I would tell you to do. Just take moral judgments off the table. look at your 8 cylinders and look at your results, because your results are what don't lie, right? And then be like, all right, I'm not happy with this result. Where do I want to go? Like, here's an example. I was just like, I do a radio show, and my partner and I were talking about this, and we put a clip out about, I was sitting in, I got stuck in coach, right? And I'm next to a very large individual. He's like 350. He's sitting, you know how he's like into my seat. We just saw this, like Southwest is going to make you buy 2 seats now. He's complaining I'm in his seat. I'm like, sir, I'm not in your seat. I'm like, I'm not little. I'm 6'5" and 220, but I'm skinny because I'm tall. I'm not in your seat. I said, but if you're complaining about the size of the seat, maybe you should have bought a first class ticket. You know, well, you should have bought a first class. I'm like, well, they were sold out today. And usually a lot of times I do get upgraded or I buy a first class. But today I wasn't. I'm just trying to get home, but I'm not the one complaining about the seat. So here's the thing is, if you're going to, like, there's no judgment. I don't care. You could be 350 pounds. I don't care. But if you're complaining about the seat, then buy 2 or go up. Like, I will not allow, I don't suffer foolishness, man. If you made those choices. I don't judge you, but I'm also not going to enable you or clap or celebrate those choices. And they're definitely not going to like hurt me. You know, man, I'm definitely not going to let it bleed over. Are you following that? So that's what I would tell everybody to do is like, look at your stuff. If you don't like where you're at, you find yourself complaining, man, take an honest assessment. Just stop everything for 72 hours. Just stop. It's not going to hurt you not to cold plunge and everything. You're burnt out. Just stop everything for 72 hours, assess where you are, and then say, here's where I want to be, and then rebuild the plan. And then start adding things together. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Actually, I heard a statement this morning. It's a Southern statement I never heard before. Maybe out of the Midwest. It said, honey, you don't have enough sense to get out the rain.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just exactly what you said. If someone's complaining about their situation, back up, reassess, change it. You don't have to live in that perpetual discomfort. You can change it. And I say perpetual intentionally because as we're coming to a close, I want to mention the book, Inner Armor, Perpetual Resilience. What is it you hope readers take away from the book?
I hope it just makes you think, right? I never say I'm right. And I know I don't really care what everybody believes. What I'm trying to do is help you understand how beliefs are made and how you can use that to your advantage. Because it doesn't really matter what you can believe whatever you want, but have you vetted those beliefs? Have you figured out how you make those beliefs? And do you know what those beliefs produce in your life? So I guess it's really just to get you to think and take the honest assessment. And I've laid out a very simple, it's simple, and I could make it no more easier than brushing your teeth, ways that you could build your resilience if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, absolutely. Andrew, where can folks connect with you, follow you, and get the book and learn more of the work you provide?
Yeah, you could just Google me. I mean, there's no fence around me. If you put in Andrew Wittman, PhD, I'll come up everywhere. But my website is getwarriortough.com and /podcast. You put you in the ecosystem, I guess you will. There's no funnel. You're not going to get on my email. I don't have emails. You're not going to get on my funnels. I'm market fatigued, so I don't do that to anybody. On that page, getwarriortough.com /podcast, there is a place, a link where you could set up a 15-minute or 30-minute call with me if you want to just like talk about this stuff. But you got to mention that you were on Ted's podcast, because if it's not in the notes, I'm not doing it, dude. I'm like, I don't know you. You know what I mean? Because my time is valuable. But just for you, Ted, if they put in, Modern Man show, then I will definitely, have a 20 or 30 minute, whatever, 15, 30. I mean, if it's good, it's a good conversation, you have good questions and you're really interested, then I'll stay on the phone for an hour. I'm not going to not help anybody, especially if you're in that, you're struggling with PTSD or you're struggling with suicide or you're struggling with burnout, and you can't, what the Noble Knights is very noble. And if you tell me that when you sign up for a call, I'm going to spend time with you to make sure that, nothing falls through the cracks. Is that okay, Ted, that I said that? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fantastic. No, I appreciate that, Andrew. Thank you. Last question, and something tells me you're not going to have any problems answering this one, but what is something you've seen or something that's happened to you that shapes the way you view the world as a man?
Yeah, so this always goes back to my leadership mentor. He's retired Lieutenant Colonel John Falchetti in the Marine Corps. When I first met him, I was a young, maybe 20-year-old corporal. He was a 26-year-old captain. He took over Weapons Company 36. That's who I was with Panama and Desert Storm. And when he took over the change of command, he said this. He said, "This is the shortest change of command speech ever." And I remember it. He said, "Gents, ride hard, shoot straight, and never lie." And then boom. I'm like, it took me years to figure that out, but that's what I mean. It totally revolutionized, and really, if it goes back, identity, all that stuff. Ride hard means like maximum effort, your best effort. Shoot straight is get skillful, learn how to be skillful in what you do, and never lie. That's it. Don't lie to yourself, don't lie to others, and run with integrity. So I think those three things, as a 20-year-old, shaped me in a way and got me on the track on all these things. Ride hard, shoot straight, never lie. I mean, my kids all have it. Like, they went to the Citadel, my two boys. It's engraved on the inside of their ring. Ride hard, shoot straight, never lie. It's kind of a family mantra now. And
Nice.
it's a great thing that you can't really, it's hard to forget. Ride hard, shoot straight, never lie. I mean, good stuff.
Yeah. Not too bad of words to live by. I love that. Well, founder and CEO of Inner Armor Resilience System, U.S. Marine Corps infantry combat veteran, former police officer, and federal agent. Should have started with this. Thank you for your service.
Oh,
Thank you
thanks,
for being
buddy.
on the
Yeah.
show.
Thanks for having me, man. What a great time.
Absolutely. A lot of fun. Something tells me we just hit the tip of the iceberg. So I'm going to need you folks to follow the links in the show note to connect with Andrew. And I'm going to just recap a couple of the gems left along the way. My fingers were typing away. I had to stop so I could be engaged in the conversation. But identity statement. Who are you? Have you decided who you're going to be? Because as Andrew said, if you don't decide who you are, your job will decide for you. The world will decide for you. Social media will decide for you. Keep your word to yourself. Who you say you're going to be, are you enacting that? Are you practicing that? Are you wiring your brain to follow up on that? Because trying is lying. I didn't get to ask more about it, but I think it speaks for itself. Trying is lying. Nobody likes a warrior until the enemies are at the gate. You might be in a situation where some people don't like you. Well, here's the good news. If 99% of this world population of 8 billion people don't like you, you still have millions of people in that 1% who are riding with you. And resilience is a physical skill. You don't just wake up and have it. You have to work at it. You have to practice it. And it doesn't take hours and hours. You could do it day to day by habit stacking things that you're already doing. Train that resilience within. And what we think, what we feel, and our attitude shapes our worldview. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What is your attitude when you go out into the world? How do I reach my highest potential is a question we should all be asking ourselves. And pressure exposes the things you did not train. Chaos will expose poor leadership. Are you filling all your cylinders? And if you're feeling overwhelmed, are you taking that reset, that step back to readdress those cylinders? And of course, ride hard, shoot straight, never lie. One last ask, go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Share this episode with a friend that you know can get value from it as well. Make sure you give Andrew a follow, and I'm going to ask that you give us a rating. It's one of the best gestures you can give us here on the podcast. It's great for the algorithm, but it's also great for us to find out what we're doing good and what we can improve on. I want an honest rating. I can handle the truth. I have thick skin. I'm working on being resilient. With that being said, guys, everybody wants the sunshine, but they don't want the rain. But you can't get the pleasure without first the pain. Let's go.